Bordwell and Thompson describe narrative as a chain of events in a cause and effect relationship occurring in time and space. Narrative is comprised of two elements, the story world and the story world's presentation. Each medium's narrative capacities are determined by its semiotic capacities, technological capacities, and its cultural practices. These distinct capacities are crucial for the narrative as they determine how the story world is presented. Mittal states that any specific medium creates particular storytelling parameters, constraining some options while enabling others. Semiotic capacity is the range of semiotic phenomena at the medium's disposal. Semiotic phenomena include language, images, music, and soundtrack. The use of multiple semiotic phenomena contribute to the narrative meaning. Films utilise each of these phenomena to convey the story world. The technological capacities of film allows communication via moving image and for each semiotic phenomena to be conveyed simultaneously. This scene aims to convey the change in Alex's character. His eye colour is bright, his pupils dilate, and his mane is wild. The images explore a shift in his character. The strong lion has gone mad. While Maurice is talking, we see Alex in the background distracted by a butterfly. This expands what Maurice is saying and shows an increase in loss of control in Alex. The images here have developed the narrative as we now see a very different Alex to the start of the film. The images in this scene also strengthen the character of King Julian. His actions are over-dramatised, he wears an outlandish crown and stands taller than the other lemurs. The end of this scene reinforces the narrative. Through the eyes of Alex, the characters turn into stakes. This expresses his internal thoughts. We then hear Alex roar. This isn't something that is heard a lot throughout the film. This is a confirmation that Alex has gone wild and that the narrative is changing. The images, camera work and music in this scene work closely together to develop the characters and narrative. Alex is the first character to make it to the beach. This shows he is the leader of the group, typical of a lion character. To further instill his dominance, Alex is framed by a low camera angle looking onto the beach. This compared to the entrance of the other characters in this scene show how the producers are utilising the different semiotic phenomena at their disposal to develop the narrative. For example, we see Melman faint on the beach, showing he is the binary opposite to Alex. This is followed by Marty surfing in on the back of dolphins with high energy music in the background. This presents him as fun and optimistic. Conveying each character so differently gives the narrative the ability to explore a variety of storylines and themes. The scene ends with all four characters in shot. Their facial expressions show the diverse moods at this point in the story. Melman is unsure, Marty is scared, Alex is angry, and Gloria is happy. This quickly changes to a shared look of concern and sudden realisation. This acts as a changing point in the story which kickstarts the next part of the narrative.
Big franchises often start off as films or television series, but to catch more audiences, producers need to expand into more media. This allows them to not only appeal to more audiences, but also have more space to be fully creative and either retell the story or have it go completely differently. Producers of Madagascar expanded their story into a range of computer games, video games and apps. Not only this, their spin-off series, Penguins of Madagascar, can also be played as a game on different devices. Now, why is this important? How do they tell a story? As Jenkins said, many games do have narrative aspirations. Minimally, they want to tap the emotional residue of previous narrative experiences. Often, they depend on our familiarity with the roles and goals of genre entertainment to orient us into the action. In the case of Madagascar, the game follows the same characters as the films, ones we are very familiar with, but also following a very similar story. The first video game, which was released back in 2005, created by Toys for Bob, for Game Boy Advance, GameCube, Microsoft Windows, Nintendo DS, PlayStation 2 and Xbox. In this game, the player mainly controls Marty the zebra. In some levels, the player can also control Gloria the hippo, Melman the giraffe, and Alex the lion. Each character has a special ability. For example, Marty has a kicking ability, which allows him to destroy K-Bales, statues, and other things. The plot of the game is retelling the story of the film. All four characters live in the Central Park Zoo in New York City. On Marty's 10th birthday, he starts doubting if the zoo is where he belongs. Shortly before, a penguin named Skipper decides to break out of the zoo and invites Marty to go with him. His friends quickly realise he's gone and follow him out to find him, catch up with him at Grand Central Station, where they're caught by police, knocked unconscious and loaded in crate on board a ship. All of them end up on an island and go on different adventures to find Marty. Jenkins says, Most often, when we discuss games as stories, we are referring to games that either enable players to perform or witness narrative events. Narrative enters such games on two levels, in terms of broadly defined goals or conflicts, and on the level of localized incidents. These games don't necessarily expand the story world, but they do entertain the audience and bring them closer to the characters as you get to control the game. The target audience are young children and teenagers, as for the films. It consists of many different levels and activities throughout the game to keep you with the franchise for longer. People will be more likely to buy merchandise or wait for film and game sequels. They can often associate the plot of the film with the game or the other way around. It's entertainment, but also makes you a bigger fan of the franchise.
In 2011, Universal World Singapore opened up a Madagascar-themed entity to their theme park. DreamWorks is a subsidiary of Universal, meaning that Universal marketed and distributed the original film. With regards to theme park creation, designers create the world and sculpt the space, and Carson suggests it's a physical space that does much of the work in conveying the Storyworlds narrative. One could argue they do this by becoming physical immersions. The user is physically surrounded by the constructed experience. When fans enter the Madagascar world at Universal, they become encased in the story world where they're taken on the journey that mimics that of the animals in the film. Now, Carson would argue that this immersion is what makes the Madagascar attraction compelling. Although there are 4 attractions at Madagascar Adventure, I will be focusing on Madagascar, A Crate Adventure. With this attraction, through the name alone, we are immersed into the story world as we connect Crate to the time that the animals were transported in crates and taken on their Madagascar adventure, just like ours is when we enter this adventure story world. Jenkins says every texture, sound and turn should reinforce the story world, and any contradictory element could shatter this immersion. This adheres to the quote because throughout we are constantly being taken on the Madagascar adventure, whereas in the film we see the adventure, in theme parks we experience this adventure physically and emotionally along with the animals that we know from the film. The ride itself is a water ride, where fans sit in boat crates and are all taken through the jungle. Designers have drawn upon semiotic phenomena including language, sound and images. These examples also stimulate the senses and also play upon the memorable moments. For example, when King Julian sings "Move It" in the film, audiences now globally associate that moment to Madagascar the film. Einstein would call this attraction to create excitement and laughter for fans on the ride. This narrative design also keeps authenticity to the film whilst allowing exploration within a new environment.
I like to move it. I like to move it. You like to...
The ride enhances the story world by emotion, and this is a moment where ride goers are rushed forward. Also, interactive moments such as water and fire are used to stimulate urgency as we feel the spray of water and the heat on our faces. Keeping vital themes such as the jungle for Madagascar alive for theme park storytelling is vital, explains Rode, who says the subject will distract, the theme will not, with regards to theme park narrative. Therefore, A Crate Adventure keeps close to the film's themes of animals, jungle and light-heartedness to keep the audience focused whilst on the ride. In addition, Lucas claims it's these moments such as fire, smoke and water spraying at audiences that are used to create particular moods and feelings in guests. In this instance, it keeps them on their toes as they never know what to expect. In film, this suspense is created through mise-en-scène elements such as music, whereas park designers use interactivity to create a feeling of suspense, activating all the senses to immerse audience in the narrative story world. To conclude, parks allow designers to control the narrative for audience to connect to the significance and develop their relationship with the original text. They stimulate all the senses and allow physical immersion, a truly unique experience that can aim to stick with consumers to push them towards consuming other media within the franchise.
I'll be using the spin-off television series The Penguins of Madagascar to demonstrate how creators utilise the narrative possibilities within a story world. Mel Ryan explains to us that a television series works to create a sustained narrative setting populated by a consistent set of characters who experience a chain of events, with all 3 factors combining to forge a coherent story world, which refers to the narrative capacities of media. This is made up through the use of semiotic capacities, cultural practices and technological capacities. Semiotic phenomena includes language, images, music and soundtrack. Television series use semiotic capacity to utilise the transmedia story world and demonstrate how story worlds are presented. The Penguins of Madagascar is an example of how Storyworld creators use technological capacity such as communicating through moving image to tell a story, and as an example of this, they are using animated characters. Cultural practices within television is another aspect that influences a Storyworld's design and presentation through industry norms such as budget, duration and structural constraints. These have all impacted the design and presentation of the Penguins of Madagascar. The Penguins of Madagascar is distinguished from the films by the structure. Salen and Zimmerman do claim that the Penguins of Madagascar is episodic, meaning that each episode is imperative in its own terms but contributing significantly to its own plot development. Episodes can be reordered without impacting our experience of the plot. Within an episodic television story world, the storyline cannot have too many impacting changes that would affect the continuing series. The Penguins of Madagascar have 96 episodes currently, which have always have to refer back to the fundamental status quo. For example, the creators could not write off one key character as it would disrupt the stability of the fundamental status quo and would jeopardise the future storylines. With reference to budget and how it influences a story world, filmmakers have more money to spend per minute of screen time rather than television producers do, which means that the original Madagascar film will have had a considerable amount more of money spent on it. Regarding structural constraint within television, Mitchell explains to us that television programmers have established narrative forms that use commercial breaks to structure plots. The Viacom channels such as Nickelodeon, Nicktoons and Nick Jr. all have advertisement breaks within the television programmes for structural reasons. As Mitchell told us, the Nickelodeon channels have created the storyline of the Penguins of Madagascar around their advertisements. This allows the creators to entice their viewing audience with events of a plot instigator in the first half of the episode, and then slotting an advertisement in to encourage the audience to stay tuned after the break to see how the plot develops after. This also goads an audience to watch through the advertisement breaks instead of changing the channel in case they miss anything in the second half, thus backing up Mitchell's statement about how television creators write their storyline around the advertisement breaks. To conclude, the storytellers of the Penguins of Madagascar have developed the television show from the original text and have structurally devised it so it is recognisable in comparison to the film. This reflects how the narrative possibilities have been utilised through semiotic capacities, technological capacities and cultural practices.
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it. I like to move it, move it.